Before someone hires a financial advisor, one of the most common things they search is, what questions should I be asking? We looked at the most commonly searched versions of what are the 3 top questions I should ask a financial advisor, how do I know if my advisor is good, and what does a financial advisor actually do? Let's break down those 3 that come up the most. If this is your first time joining Retirement Redefined, I'm your host, Brad Gotto, one of the founders and the CEO of Fiat Wealth Management. Welcome to the episode. This is a topic that we've done before. So if you scroll all the way back in the archives of our podcast, when it had a different name, we had different hosts, you will know that we've touched on this subject, but I wanted to bring it back to light because at the end of the day, when you're hiring a financial advisor, having that conversation with them and knowing what you're supposed to be looking for is really important. We all deal with this. There's multiple situations in life that we're like, gosh, I don't even know if I'm asking the right questions. For a lot of us, that could be at the car dealership when you go to get your car fixed and they tell you have to do all these things to your car and it needs a new belt here and a new drive this and a new blinker this. And you're like, I don't even know if they're telling me the truth. And I don't know if I'm getting a really good deal or if they're taking advantage of me. And it's no different in financial services. And so I just want to touch on this topic. And so when it comes to hiring a financial advisor, there's a lot of things to consider. And we're not going to get into every single one of them in the episode, but I did want to cover, like I said, the most popular responses that Google is going to give. Number 1 being the new fresh, fancy word, not new, but relatively recently, this word fiduciary. And so the number 1 question we get here at Fiat matches what Google says, which is, are you a fiduciary? Number 1, is this a question you should be asking? Yeah, I think this is a good question. I think anytime you're thinking about hiring a financial advisor, asking them if they are a fiduciary is a completely acceptable question, and not only acceptable, probably a good question to be asking. So let's just start with, what in the world does that even mean? What is a fiduciary? Well, a fiduciary is just a legal definition or legal word, I guess, in my mind, that means we have to legally act in our client's best interest. This really started to come into light post-2008. If you guys can bring your memories back to 2008, 2009, you'll remember that we went through the banking crisis. And in a 16-month period, the S&P drew down 53%. We lost a lot of major banks, investment banks, all the way down to local and regional banks. And it kind of started this shift in financial, not just in the banking industry, in financial services in general, where customers became a lot more aware of the possibility that the firm or institution that they're working with might not be making great decisions. And so therefore started this kind of importance of asking this question, are you a fiduciary? Which again, by definition, a fiduciary is legally obligated to act in a client's best interest. What's interesting is you would think everybody that uses the title financial advisor would be held to that standard, when in reality, it's not true. So one of the reasons Google thinks it's a good question to ask, and a lot of people are asking it, is because not every financial advisor is in fact required to act in a fiduciary capacity, again, being legally obligated to act in your best interest. Now, if you're like me, your gut reaction is, really? You would think that that's kind of like table stakes for managing, being a wealth manager, financial advisor, whatever you want to call us, and we're in charge of people's life savings, is that we should, in fact, be legally obligated to act in your best interest, when in reality, that's not true. There are also advisors that are held to a suitability standard, not a fiduciary standard. Depending on how the advisor is licensed and how they conduct business relative to how they are paid, it's possible that the fiduciary standard is not there. The suitability standard basically says they have to do what they deem suitable. It's a lot more vague, is basically what it comes down to. And so there's a lot more wiggle room. If the advisor were have to defend themselves in a court of law, the standard that they're held to from a suitability standpoint, with all that extra gray in there, could possibly mean, if we're playing out the Armageddon scenario, where a client got a bad recommendation, or the advisor gave bad advice, or maybe did something that's semi-malicious. In a suitability standard, maybe they get away with it. And in a fiduciary standard, maybe they don't. But in that suitability standard, these advisors, I said, that are licensed differently. There's multiple securities licenses that you can obtain to be able to call yourself a financial advisor and manage people's money for a living. And depending on the licensure and, like I said, the compensation structure is what's going to determine that. And so as an example, Fiat, are we a fiduciary? The answer is yes, we absolutely are. That means that we are licensed and set up and structured in such a way that we're held to that standard. We are fee-based fiduciary advisors, regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. That is our regulating body that holds us to that fiduciary standard. There's a nuance in there, though, that a lot of people aren't going to pick up on that I just want to address and be very transparent about right now. And that is, I said we're fee-based. So traditionally a fee-based advisor or fee-only advisor, and there's the nuance that I'm going to get to in a second, because there is a difference there, fee-based versus fee-only. A fee-only financial advisor, when it comes to securities business and managing money, the only way that they make money is on the value of the account that they manage. Said differently, the average fee in our industry is 1%. And so if you have a $1 million portfolio being managed by an advisor charging you 1% a year, and let's just say your portfolio was exactly $1 million all year long, that means you're going to pay that advisor $10,000 to be on retainer to you to do whatever level of financial planning that firm provides. That is the only way they can make money. They cannot make money based on performance. They cannot make money based on a particular product and get paid directly for selling a product. And so whether they use ABC mutual fund or XYZ ETF or an individual stock position, there's no compensation in that. They're not paid to sell product. There is no commission for that kind of stuff. It's just solely based on the value of the account. Pros and cons to every way you pay anybody in any industry. But I would argue more than the other comp model that we'll discuss in a second, the suitability comp model, it puts us on the same side of the table as the client. When the client has more money and makes more money, we make more money. When the client loses money or has less money, we make less money. And so both of us are equally yoked in the fact that we both want you to have more money. It's good for both sides of the table. But that's in a fee-only model. What is a fee-based model then? If you can be fee-only or fee-based. Fee-based means, like at Fiat as an example, under the Fiat umbrella, if you've been around Fiat, if you're an existing client of Fiat and you're listening and you've been around for any period of time, you know that we have Fiat Wealth Management, we have Fiat Insurance Services, and we have Fiat Tax. So under the FIS, we call it internally umbrella, Fiat Insurance Services, if we were to recommend and then sell a life insurance contract to a particular client or a long-term care type contract or a annuity, those are commission-based products. And so not in the securities world, when we're managing money that is invested in the market or similar type things, that is a fee-only model. When we delve into, because we are full service under the umbrella of Fiat, when we start delving into the insurance side of the world, not the security side of the world, those are commission-based products. And so the reason, I know there's a nuance there, but I think it matters that I don't use the language that we're fee-only is because if we're utilizing kind of that insurance umbrella, there is possibly a commission to be had there. So we call ourselves fee-based. Now, the other side of the house, the suitability side of the house, very simple. It's a suitability standard, which I defined earlier, not a fiduciary standard. And traditionally, they're going to be paid a commission to sell a product. And so if you buy ABC mutual fund from them, that mutual fund is going to have a sales load associated with it. That sales load then goes to the advisor to pay the advisor to sell that product. Now, I will say that is less and less common these days. It was kind of the way everybody did business maybe 20, 30 years ago. This fee-only, fee-based model has really kind of started to take off in the last 20 years and even more so just in the last 10 years. So not as common anymore. But yes, this is an important question and an important distinction to dive into. So I would agree with Google that it's a great question to ask. And frankly, it's the number one question we get asked here as well. Moving on to question number 2. How do you get paid? Now, if you didn't pick up on this in question number 1, I kind of covered this already because it dives into how fiduciaries are paid and how a suitability standard or commission-based advisor is paid. But I do just want to add a couple of things here. So yes, of course, I think this is a great question to ask, but I think it ties right into that question about being a fiduciary and tying those two things together. A couple things. Number 1, I think no matter who you work with, even if you think that both models are equal, you're fine as a consumer. I don't care if you're fee-based, fee-only, or if you're commission-based. What I really care about, and what I should probably care about even more than that, is just transparency. I just want to know how it's okay that you get paid. I tell people that all the time. Fiat as an organization is not a not-for-profit, non-profit organization. We are a for-profit organization. This is how I pay my bills. Just like you have a job to pay your bills. It's okay that we make a profit. You should just know how you pay us. And one thing that's super interesting about my industry is I think we're the second worst. I don't know that we're the first worst, and I don't know if that's correct English anyway, but, and I'm kind of picking on them here, and so if you're in this industry, please don't take this personally. I think the worst industry when it comes to transparency about fees and expenses or how people are paid is the healthcare industry. If you've ever walked into, prime example, my oldest son just had a minor surgery. No big deal, so don't, no reason to email me or call me and say, hey, is he okay? He's fine. But when you walk into the hospital and you have to do the pre-surgery, check-in, check-up, whatever, okay, come back in a couple of weeks for surgery, you come back, you meet with multiple different people, and then you have the surgeon themselves, but you have the anesthesia person, and you got the nurses. When you walk out of there, you have no idea what any of that costs. No idea. Nobody does, ever. You just kind of walk into the hospital, you get done what you get done, and all of a sudden the bills start to come in the mail. And a lot of times these days, you're getting bills from multiple departments because they're billing separately. You're going to get a bill from the anesthesia office, you're going to get a separate bill from the surgeon, a separate bill from the hospital, and maybe a separate bill from a different department. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of a crapshoot. You walk in there, you know you need the health care, and it's just going to cost whatever it costs. And the only thing that we're ever surprised by is how much it costs. Nobody's ever gotten a bill from the hospital and they thought, wow, that's a lot cheaper than I thought it was going to be. Our industry isn't quite that bad, but we're pretty bad. We do a really good job of hiding how we're paid. There's a lot of people, and at Fiat, we do a lot of public education. And because I do a lot of public education, we meet a lot of people, and we get an opportunity to review people's existing plans, i.e. their existing relationships, which about 90% of the people we meet in the general public have a financial advisor. And one of the most surprising part about those conversations is we bring to light, based on the information that they provide to us, how they're paying their existing advisor, because we just want to make sure they're aware. And the vast majority of the time, it blows me away every single time. They're surprised by it. They're like, oh, I didn't know that's how I was paying them, or I didn't know that my total fees came out to X. And so understanding how an advisor is paid, whether it's fee-based or commission-based, great. But you should actually know what that means dollars and cents wise. You should actually understand, okay, this relationship is going to cost me X amount per month, per quarter, per year, however you want to look at it, and make sure that you perceive the value in that relationship relative to the dollar amount. I'll give you a prime example at Fiat. When it comes to fee-only or fee-based advisors, when it comes to billing accounts, clients' accounts, it's a percentage. Like we talked about before, the standard percentage, kind of the perfectly average percentage in our industry is 1%. And so again, in my example, you have $1 million portfolio, you're going to pay 10 grand a year. Okay, it's 1%. Is that billed 1% one time a year? You just, in January, you take out the 10 grand and it is what it is. Not normal. What's normal in our industry is either quarterly or monthly. And so what's going to happen is they're going to bill your account once a quarter or once a month. At Fiat, as an example, it's once a month. And so what we'll do is we'll take 1/12 of 1% and bill the account that amount. So 1/12 of 1% comes out every month. It gets to 1% total throughout the year. But at Fiat, we also bill monthly in arrears. So said differently, we don't bill we're currently in March as I record this. I don't bill for March until April. So we do the work, then we bill for the work. There are other firms that bill in advance, where they say, hey, we're going to bill you before we do the work. And again, this isn't good or bad. You can make your own judgments on that. I'm just telling you, some people bill quarterly, some people bill monthly, some people bill in arrears, some people bill in advance. Some advisory offices bill on a monthly average or a quarterly average, where they'll look at the account balance every single day in that month or that quarter and average it out. And that's what they charge the fee on, because it's a percentage of the account balance. And some it's just a snapshot in time. It's just whatever the account balance was the day of billing is what they're going to bill on. And again, pros and cons to all of this stuff, but understanding that and understanding why you're getting the bill that you're getting is vitally important. So Google, you're 2 for 2. Moving on to question 3, what services do you actually provide? This is actually my favorite of the 3 questions, and here's why. The word financial advisor is really vague, like really vague. That can mean a lot of different things. Because I've been in this industry, I'm in my 20th year, so I've been in it long enough and done a ton of coaching and mentoring of other financial advisors. I've had the opportunity to meet thousands of advisors across the country, and it's very interesting to me that, and I'm not saying whether these are good people or bad people, that's irrelevant. Let's just assume they're all really good people. But all of them would consider themselves financial advisors. But when you look at what they actually do for their clients and kind of what the service offering or the product offering looks like, all very different. I mean, I'll give you an analogy to kind of drive the point home. In the food world, you can go to a restaurant, and every place that you can go that serves food and, is going to make the food for you and give you a bill and send you home, that's a restaurant. But you can have a lot of really different experiences at a restaurant. Yes, you could call a fine dining, chef-driven, Michelin star, chef type place, that is a restaurant. But you could call McDonald's a restaurant. And so although in the broad sense, it's true that they're both technically restaurants, very, very, very different product offering. And that is absolutely true in my industry as well. In fact, I would say it's probably just even that broad, from fine dining all the way down to fast food and everywhere in between. And so asking that question of what services do you actually provide, I think is really important. There can be confusion between, do you just do investment management or do you do retirement planning? And what does retirement planning actually mean? Do you do tax planning? Do you do estate coordination or estate planning? Do you just pick stocks? What if I'm buying a home and I want to know how it impacts my overall financial situation? Do you have the expertise for that kind of stuff? Because in our industry, you have everything from, somebody that would consider themselves a financial advisor that maybe only actually deals with insurance, and they call themselves a financial advisor, all the way to, you might have a family office that not only is dealing with ultra high net worth families, not only is doing the standard things you think would be on a service menu, whether it's, asset management, kind of that investment side of stuff, the retirement side of stuff, taxes and estate, they might also be chasing down K1s for their clients. They might also be, helping procure real estate in a different state. Said differently, there's kind of a fine dining experience in our industry, and then there's also kind of a fast food experience in our industry. And so when you're looking at these questions, understanding how your advisor, what standard they're held to, first and foremost. Secondarily, how are you paid? But understanding if how they're paid is of value to you, and how do you ascribe a value to that fee? So in my example I've used throughout this entire episode, $1 million portfolio, 1% a year, that's 10 grand a year. Well, 10 grand a year, depending on the context, can sound really expensive, or it can sound really cheap. It is all determined by the value you receive back. Again, I'll kill off my restaurant analogy here. If before you got any other details, you just knew that going out to dinner tonight was going to cost you $250, but you had no other details, you might think, man, that's really expensive for dinner. I don't know that I want to spend $250 on dinner. Some of you might think that's really cheap because you're just a foodie and you're eating at really nice places all the time. But if I give you a little bit more context and I go, okay, it's $250 for dinner and we're going to McDonald's. You're like, what? No, that's not even, I can't eat $250 worth of food at McDonald's. So I'm not paying $250 to go to McDonald's. And if you can eat $250 of food at McDonald's, kudos to you. I don't think you're going to feel very good for a couple of days, but it would take a lot. Whereas if I said it's going to be $250, but we're actually going to a 2-star Michelin restaurant, I just happened to get us a really good deal. And, a normal sitting there as a 10-course meal is going to be $1,500, but I got it for $250. You're like, oh, well, that's a screaming deal. And so just because you pay an advisor 1% per year, as an example, it could be really expensive. It could also be really cheap. It depends on the product offering. It depends on what you're getting for what you're paying for. So on face value, do not ever take an advisor's fees as good or bad. Do your homework. Do your due diligence. What do I get for the fees that I pay? And then that's going to help you tell that full and final story. There's a lot of other questions you could ask financial advisors, and maybe in future podcast episodes, we'll get into some of those other ones. But again, I implore you, listeners, to really dive into this stuff because, again, very broad brush in our industry. And this isn't good or bad. There is absolutely a place in my restaurant analogy for McDonald's to exist. Absolutely. There's also a place for these, Michelin star restaurants to exist and everything in between. There is space for everybody that calls themselves a financial advisor to have product offerings across that spectrum and to charge a different set of fees for what they do. But as the consumer, you need to know what you're buying. You need to know and understand the type of relationship that you're getting involved in, the type of, the standards that they're held to, and what positions of, I wouldn't say I have power stuck in my head, but that's not exactly what I mean. You need to know where you can dive in with that advisor in that relationship and have influence and control, because this is your life savings. This is a really, really important decision. And at Fiat, we don't take that lightly. I've always told people it's kind of like a marriage. You got to kind of look at it that way and say, not only do I need to understand, are you fiduciary? How do you charge fees? What do I get for my fees? That kind of stuff. But I would add to this, and this is where I would like to end. No matter what you're looking for, what product you're after, if you're after kind of fast food, that 10-course meal experience or somewhere in between, you also really, really need to get along with that person. You need to believe and understand the core values of the firm that you're hiring, the advisor that you're hiring, and make sure that that's somebody you can kind of see living life with in a meaningful way. It's that trust factor. It's knowing that they've got your back, that they've got your best interest in mind, regardless of product offering and regardless of what standard that our industry is going to force them to be held to. Is this the type of person that's going to hold themselves to that standard, even if they didn't have the big brother of the SEC over their shoulder? And is it somebody that I align with just personally? Because this person, at least at Fiat, because our product offering is very robust and we have a very, we're pretty close with our clients, I guess I would say. It's important that we get along on a personal level as well. So that would be the thing that I would add into that conversation, is just make sure that that person that's sitting across the table from you isn't somebody you're just doing transactions with. It's somebody that you can see going out to dinner with. It's somebody that you can see spending some time with. And ultimately, I think one of the things I think about being a married man is this a person that I would trust? If I were to die today, do I feel comfortable that my wife is in the hands of a person that is going to take care of her? All that kind of stuff really matters. So bottom line is, you've got some homework to do. If you're out there and you're not a current family member, client of Fiat, and you're out there looking for a financial advisor, this is a great place to start. It's not an exhaustive list. If you want more details on other things you should be looking at, or you just want more details on Fiat and what our product offering looks like relative to our fees and be able to compare and contrast that, happy to have that conversation. You can always find anything you want to find about Fiat on our website, which is Fiat, FIATWM.com. We get the question all the time, what's up with the name Fiat? That's all on the website. So feel free to check us out on our website and reach out to us that way. If you've not yet subscribed to the podcast, I would encourage you to do that as well. We're dropping a couple of episodes every month, whether it's topics like this or it's topic-specific things like taxes or, Social Security, whatever it may be. We would love to have you subscribe to the podcast. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Retirement Redefined, and we will see all of you next week.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to click the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guests and does not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Fiat Wealth Management. content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.